Hello, and welcome to the Unofficial Official Podcast. I'm Carter Kistler, alongside hosts Theo Hauser and Troy Meister, and today we are talking about pharmaceutical CDs from the 90s. Like, what do they do? Like, what is their function?
Today we're going to be talking about the overview of how absolutely insane these pharmaceutical CDs are in this pharmaceutical pharmanation. So let's begin. All right, guys, so today we're going to just kind of be talking about the overall overview of the absolute wackiness of these crazy CDs that we are looking at in our hands. Carter, how about you describe to us how exactly you came across these CDs and kind of the story about how you found them in the first place?
So, a few weeks ago, my dad was getting ready to retire, and he's like, "Hey, buddy, I got all these CDs. Do you want them?" And I was like, "Oh, I probably could use a few more CDs." And I didn't realize that they were all pharmaceutical branded CDs they're just absurd. Like, they make no sense, and they all have the same like 4 songs on them. But yeah, so we have like Bayer sponsored CDs. We've got like Biaxin tablets sponsored CDs. We've got a Claritin Christmas album. We have GERD on tape.
No, I feel like we should clarify that this isn't like just a general product overview or like instructional CD on how to use the product. This is like a licensed album with licensed music sponsored by all of these companies, and like Claritin and Bayer, and it's just
and Biaxin. Like literally, like actually, these companies have sponsored these CDs.
Yeah.
And the thing is, the sounds, like the actual songs in these CDs, are like real songs that like you could actually like listen to. Like for example, mine, "Danceable Summer Sounds" with a picture of a bulldog, has the Hawaii 5-0 like theme song, I think, from like the Ventures on it. Like, it's the actual, they have "Dancing in the Street" by Martha Reeves, and like these are real songs that these pharmaceutical companies actually put on these CDs.
Some of them are super creative too. All of them from like the 80s and the 90s, it looks like, back when CDs were super prominent. But like this one, for example, Relaxin' with Scalaxin. That is just such a catchy name, and it's all jazz. It's got like Coltrane and Benny Goodman, and it's just like, I don't know the purpose of these, but I just love the idea of like, it's Christmas morning, put on some music, put on my Claritin Christmas album, sponsored by Claritin. Please pay me money. The whole idea, I don't know like who invented this idea, but all of these companies decided to jump in on it, and I just love that idea.
I mean, like, we obviously know that, like, pharmaceutical companies have, like, advertisements and stuff on, like, TV, or, like, we have all, like, you'd see it on, like, a sports game, like, after the Super Bowl happens in the Super Bowl commercials. There's a bunch of just random, like, pharmaceutical companies are like, hey, buy our product, and, like, hey, this is good for headaches and stuff, and, like, you got all these kind of medicinal things. But just to know that, like, of all of the branding ideas that, like, at a meeting, someone had to sit down and say, all right, guys, we're Claritin, and we're trying to sell Claritin tablets. How do we think we're going to be able to sell these accurately? And one guy named Jerry, just on the wrong day, just thought, you know what? Let's just make CDs that are going to sell our product.
Yeah,
the 90s were a different time.
The 90s were very involved.
You got dudes pitching mini baseball bats, Claritin branded mini baseball bats, and like stuffed animals and stuff. Like, how do we get this to kids? Like, how do we make sure that we can sell like antihistamines to children?
Absolutely. Carter, you did mention something about stuffed animals. If you'd like to go a little bit further depth into that.
Yeah, growing up, one of my best friends was a stuffed animal that was actually just a set of lungs with sunglasses on, and it was branded by some pharmaceutical company. So I had the Build-A-Bear lung set. And that was pretty terrifying when I'd get into bed as a child and just have lungs staring at me.
Do you think they had to put like the side effects printed on the tag for the lungs, like can cause death?
I think so. I think it was very similar to like a tobacco, like Surgeon General's warning, like make sure your kids don't actually take the drugs that are advertised on the stuffed animal. They will die like immediately.
This whole concept to me, I had heard about this idea that we were going to talk about this podcast beforehand, but I wasn't really into it until I saw some of these CDs, and this is just bizarre. And I wish we will hopefully be able to show some of these covers and like just the absolute time capsule that these are at a later date. But right now, I've got like 3 of them in my hand. I'm just looking at them over and over again. This one's like a holiday album with Santa hats on the bottles of medicine. It's like a great toast to cool music. It is great. I love it so much.
We've got Sergeant Staten's Happy Heart Club Band sponsored by Bay Call over here. I don't like what the worst part is
about that one.
Is it supposed to be a play on the Beatles?
Like the Sgt. Pepper's?
Yeah, because
Maybe.
We've got Bach and Beethoven and Mozart, which doesn't make sense if they're trying to like do the whole like psychedelic Beatles cover band type beat.
I just like, it doesn't really make any sense to me what they're even trying to market towards.
What?
Like Beatles fans or like.
What prescription is this again? Did you say?
Baycol Cerevistatin sodium tablets. And actually,
Sodium tablets.
What
There
a
we go.
name for that one.
we've got, and in here actually is a lyrics booklet. And at one point it says repeat chorus and then goes through like the function of Baycol. Like Baycol is indicated as an adjunct to diet for the reduction of elevated total and LDL cholesterol levels. Like, I'm sold.
Lower your cholesterol by
Four-album
listening to
deal.
Bach for an hour and a half.
Like,
It would probably work.
I feel like that would definitely work.
Oh, vocals by Nat King Cole, spelled Chol, because it's a cholesterol tablet. Piano, Lipid von Beethoven, Beatho. Like, what? LD Ella.
So they actually-
LD Ella Fitzgerald.
So they actually spell like they like do like puns on the actual artists' names that are like that are actually literally
Yeah.
pharmaceutical. I didn't even know that. This one that I have doesn't even like. It's just the names of the artists. I didn't even think that they would even try that. That's like that.
It's creative, I gotta say.
This entire concept to me sounds like a John Mulaney like a John Mulaney skit or like a John like and one of his like Kid at Radio City. He would probably talk about these pharmaceutical companies are just going crazy these days and just talk about how like they. Like
Oh yeah, no, you could
he's
build a whole
crazy, man.
5-minute set.
You could do a whole like set just about like the craziness of these. The one that I have, I wanted to like quickly point out. It's called Soundbites Danceable Summer Sounds with an apt picture of a bulldog and a skirt. By
It
the
is
way,
very 90s. I
and
love
doing
it.
a super like, and it's like little paw is hitting a beach ball over a net, and it's for Biaxin Clarithromycin tablets, which is another one of these super big like pharmaceutical tablets. And instead of this like, because Carter's has like an actual like the certain like foreword of it.
Right.
This one is just like an actual like paragraph that they wrote about, like a full-on foreword. And I will read this to you thusly.
Oh no.
It happens every year, almost in a single day. There is a change in the air, a difference in the light. The grass is drier, the clouds puff higher, and summer has arrived. Welcome to the summer of 1997 and to Danceable Summer Sounds. This collection of rock and roll favorites was chosen to celebrate the joys of the season, the pleasures of being outdoors, and the sheer fun of dancing, which I feel like we can all kind of agree is a pretty fun thing to do. Many of the tunes in this album, and also this uses tunes, which actually a lot of my colleagues would definitely bash me for saying tunes, but this one definitely goes for that 90s. But anyway, many of these tunes on this album were part of the West Coast sound, the style which was created the quintessential California pastime surfing. In the early 60s, songs like Wipeout and Pipeline and acts like the Beach Boys and Jan and Dean took this happy-go-lucky sound to the top of the charts all over the world. Very interesting that a pharmaceutical company has like they have people that are like trying to figure out the trends of the era of the 60s. Or they're like, instead of focusing on trying to make a better medicine,
This feels
they're
on
just like
par with like companies nowadays all having like Twitter and Instagram and like creating memes for its clients. Instead, they're creating like albums for the youngsters.
yeah, they're doing.
Playing the Beach Boys.
This is
and
the 90s
tequila.
equivalent of like pharmaceutical Twitter.
Yes.
essentially.
We've lured you with our majestic tunes. Come by our tonics.
Now buy our elixirs and tonics. Other tunes on this album emerged from the eastern half of the country. While the West Coast was singing about beaches, bikinis, and hot rods, East Coast groups were singing about the heat waves and dancing in the streets. We hope you enjoy the simple pleasures of summer this year. Don't forget to take time to go for a swim, nap in the hammock, cook over an open fire, and party to danceable summer sounds. Brought to you by Biaxin Calanthromycin tablets. I just love in the entire like sound bites like description, not a single time do they advertise their product.
No.
Not a single, like, of course, oh yeah, like they're not even trying at this point to advertise, even though the whole point of these is to advertise for their like tablets, their Clemantharin, Biaxin, whatever word gibberish tablet.
I'm also a big fan of how I have no idea what Biaxin is or what it does, and that does
Neither
not
do I.
matter in
Like,
the
it's-
context of this.
I don't think they exist anymore.
I don't,
Probably
yeah, I
not.
feel like they've been long.
No one bought their CDs in the 90s.
No one bought their CDs anymore, so how are you going to sell anything? I also love how on the front of this Biaxin cover, there's just, or I think I flipped it backwards, but there's literally just on the back a picture of a dog just eating a bowl, or has like a bowl and like took a chunk out of the actual, like they like, because a bite out of the paper of the Biaxin thing.
Oh, I see that.
But you can't see it to our viewers at home, but actually there's a literal chunk out of the paper of the Biaxin like review thing, and it's just the bulldog eating it, which I find. And the bowl's empty, but the bowl says Bix because the dog's name is Bix.
I feel it's
apparently.
also very important to talk about danceable is not like dance ABLE like you would think it is.
It's dance ABULL like bulldog.
Yes, like bulldog.
which I think is just super hilarious, the fact that they even would try something like that in the first place.
This whole thing is just a very interesting concept to me.
Like,
I think I'm
I'm-
still processing it.
I'm still a little bit trying to kind of digest this a bit because
Oh,
I didn't
yeah.
even know. I've never once heard of pharmaceutical companies even selling like this. This is something I'd never even heard of until this podcast.
CDs, stuffed
Like-
animals.
Like they're
we
like
got
the whole
everything.
the whole gambit of like the capitalist kind of like trying to sell stuff as a certain company to get your brand across is just insane to me. I mean, it's definitely something we take for granted, but just the fact that it manifested itself in such a like insanely crazy, like quixotical kind of, like, how would you even describe this to somebody on the street? Like, yeah, pharmaceutical companies sold CDs, and you'd have to be like, what? I don't even like, I
Absolutely.
barely look at their commercials on TV.
This is
let
a
alone-
fever dream for me.
This is like actual fever dream.
This did not exist. I'm just making this
I just
up. at this
yeah, it
point.
just feels like if like literally somebody just walked into the studio and just like tried to figure out like what we were even talking about, they'd be like, are these guys like high right now? Are they like actually like talking about a real thing? Because pharmaceutical companies don't seem like they would sell this stuff, but nah, they legit sold this stuff.
They
I don't
did.
think it's a sale so much as like they're pitching their drugs to like a medical professional, and then they're like, by the way, take my mixtape, give it a listen. Like, if you
Buy my
like it,
mixtape.
like make sure you prescribe our drugs.
Oh yeah, this was
Like-
probably like given to doctors. It's like, hey, give this out when you prescribe a drug, so that people know like
Yeah.
what kind
I
of
could
vibe
not
it is.
imagine at a doctor's appointment going to like get tablets for like like inflammatory bowels or like IBS, and then just like as soon as you walk out, they recommend, oh yeah, by the way, have you ever heard of Biaxin? They're like, oh, I don't really know. I mean, whatever helps the IBS go away. And they're like, oh yeah, by the way, take these tablets. And I just happen to have this. If you're looking to listen while you enjoy your Biaxin chromamethylin or ceramthromycin tablets, just give these summer songs a listen.
Yeah,
and
feeling
just
depressed,
feel-
listen to some
yeah,
of
feel-
these fun pop
Feel
hits.
depressed after
Yeah.
your IBS symptoms come around. Just listen to some fun, 60s surf hits. And I would probably not go to the doctors as often if I.
You think the dentist would have this as well?
I really hope not.
No, the dentist is just like drill, baby, drill.
The dentists are just they're going real hard trying to drill these
Oh,
drill
man.
these teeth and get this like. Oh my god! my brain is trying to wrap its head around even
I
looking
think
at this
Next
disc CD.
podcast, we should create our own pharmaceutical playlist for a company of our choosing and decide what we would do, like if we were in this situation.
Yeah,
Like,
I
choose
think,
a company.
Yeah, we literally
Yeah.
like we should pitch. Like I legitimately think for next podcast we should just like pitch our actual just idea for a pharmaceutical. We're this like we'll literally make up like a pharmaceutical company, just like, hey, let's make a CD. What playlists in the modern day and age that kids are listening to would sell our our tablets. I think it's a solid
We'll get
idea.
it recorded. We'll create an entire company based on this. Get it produced. It'll be great.
Okay, we'll do our whole startup.
Please go on gofundus.com/pharmaceuticals to start and to help us. No, not actually.
Yeah, no. Let's let the viewers decide if we would even be capable of doing such a thing. But this has been our very first podcast of the Pharmaceutical Podcast. I've been Theo Hauser,
I've been Troy Meister.
I'm Carter Kissler.
and we will pharmacy to you next time.